What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Prince YouTube PS Compulsion signing in here, aka Prince Anthony, and welcome back to another rebuild / what if challenge. And in this rebuild, we are going to be rebuilding a team that I always wanted to do a rebuild for in the Atlanta Hawks. We've been seeing a few flashes here and there of how great the young talent is on this Atlanta Hawks team with players like Trae Young and John Collins. Can't forget about my son Bembry. He is low-key nice, bro. Like, don't sleep on him at all. But although they do have a lot of young pieces, the Atlanta Hawks for the past few seasons haven't been doing nothing at all. And currently in the Eastern Conference, they are tied with the New York Knicks as the worst team in the Eastern Conference. But although the Atlanta Hawks are at the bottom of the East with the New York Knicks, that's my squad, bro. We really should be doing better this season. Like, I'm rocking my Knicks snapback. I always gotta rock my Knicks snapback. You guys know I'm the biggest Knicks fan ever. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. But although the Atlanta Hawks are at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, what if they were to get extremely lucky and land the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft next season, well, next offseason, and they end up drafting someone like, I don't know, Anthony Edwards? Would a team of Trae Young and Edwards be able to take the Atlanta Hawks to an NBA championship? What if Anthony Edwards was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks? So jumping into things, I did use the Start Today feature, so I basically hopped in to the season as of December 2nd, because I'm recording this video on December 2nd. Of the Atlanta Hawks, and right now we are not doing well for the season at all. But if you look at our roster, we do have a lot of good young pieces, bro. A lot of good young pieces on this team. But a few of those young pieces like Kevin Huerter and John Collins, they both are injured. But although we've been dealing with injuries, Trae Young has been proving all the naysayers wrong. He has been averaging 28 points per game for this season thus far in a losing fashion. But this is great to see. Although in a losing fashion, if your star player or potential star player, future all-star, is dropping 28 points per game and he is lighting up the competition, things could only go up from there. So since this season is looking pretty much lost, because although it's still December, we don't expect this Hawks team to go on a mean winning streak and enter the playoffs, so we know that's not gonna happen. So we're switching gears and looking towards the future, looking towards a potential top 5 draft pick, where we are looking at drafting Anthony Edwards to pair with Trae Young. I know what some of you guys may be asking, how is Anthony Edwards going to fit in that backcourt with Trae Young? Well, Trae Young's the point guard, Anthony Edwards is the shooting guard. Trae Young, offensive threat, offensive juggernaut, destroying the competition on the offensive end. His defense is kind of weak, but that's where Anthony Edwards comes in, also with some more offense. As of this moment, Anthony Edwards have been basically raising his draft stock, averaging 20 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, playing for Georgia. Yo, he has been destroying the competition in college. So pairing an offensive threat like Trae Young with Anthony Edwards in the backcourt that could play defense, who could also score the ball as well, match made in heaven. So now we arrive at the end of this season, and honestly, we played pretty well. We got 32 victories of the season. We lost 50 games. In the second half of the season, we ended up balling out and improving our record to 32 wins. With this roster, the way it's looking right now, I'm telling you guys, things could only go up. But although we got 32 wins, we still did not make the playoffs in the East. And check this out, the Clippers and the Bucks are in the NBA Finals, and somehow, someway, the Greek Freak beats Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to bring a championship to the Milwaukee Bucks. That's lit right there. Shout out to the Greek Freak. But although we didn't make the playoffs, like I said, when you have players like Trae Young averaging more than 20 points per game, he's your future all-star, your future, basically, face of your franchise. That's pretty good. So looking at the player stats at the end of this season, Trae Young averaged 27 points per game. Jabari Parker right behind him, followed by John Collins, Hunter, Bembry. So our young core really played well. I can't lie. So our young core really played well. I'm really impressed that Trae Young averaged 27 points, bro. This dude is gonna be the real deal. But moving on to the NBA draft, we did get lucky. We secured the #1 pick in the NBA draft With that number 1 pick, we decided to go with Anthony Edwards. So ladies and gentlemen, we got our future backcourt, Anthony Edwards, Trae Young. Things are definitely about to get lit. So now that first season is done, now that we got Anthony Edwards on the squad, it's time to finally really dive into this rebuild. It's time for me to put together an Atlanta Hawks squad that's definitely going to contend for an NBA championship. And I'm building my squad around Anthony Edwards and Trae Young. Let's get into it, bro. Now that we're moving towards free agency, time to check out the pending options. Tyrone Wallace, I'm accepting the team option on his contract because we need more bodies, and I don't know how our roster is really looking right now, especially entering free agency. And Jabari Parker declined his player option. Thank God. He's not coming back to the squad at all. Then in terms of the qualifying offers, same thing. Damian Jones, I offered him the qualifying offer. Same thing for Charles Brown Jr., Brandon Goodwin, and last but not least, my son DeAndre Bembry. Got to keep him on the squad. Offered all of them qualifying offers. Hopefully they accept it and they stick around because we really need them. So now before we get to free agency, I did not realize how much bad contracts the Atlanta Hawks have right now that was on expiring deals. We have players like Evan Turner, Allen Crabbe, Chandler Parsons just eating up our cap space. Nah, get that BS out of here. I'm letting all of their cap holes go, bro. Get them out of here. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally arrived at free agency. It is now time to see who's going to sign with our Atlanta Hawks squad. And looking at our cap space, after I cleared all those cap holes, well, most of those cap holes, we have $64 million in free cap space. Like, bro, we can literally go after any player that we want, and this free agency class is looking pretty good. They got Brandon Ingram, Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond, the list goes on and on. A lot of good free agents this offseason, but a lot of those free agents are not going to sign with Atlanta. See, I want to keep things as realistic as possible. Although Atlanta have a lot of cap space, let's really be honest. With a player like Anthony Davis, try to sign with the Atlanta Hawks? No, that's definitely not going to happen. What might happen, though, is the Atlanta Hawks might end up overpaying for a player that they really shouldn't overpay for. You see, this happens all the time in the NBA. There's a lot of teams that players do not want to go to. Nowadays, players are all about their brands. That's why we have players like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James in LA trying to make as much money as possible. KD, Kyrie coming to New York, not my New York Knicks, sadly, but they're still in New York. They're still in a huge market. That's what it's all about nowadays. So we wouldn't be able to get big name free agents like Anthony Davis. We could cross players like that off the list. But I do know a few players who definitely might do so, especially if the price is right. So in terms of free agency, these are the players that we are going to sign. Montrezl Harrell, we signed him to a max 4-year, $100 million deal. Like I said, we was going to overpay for a player that probably don't deserve all that money, but bro, Montrezl Harrell is a beast. So maybe he does deserve that money. But like I said, I definitely see Montrezl Harrell as a player that Atlanta Hawks would probably target, bringing some more defense to the Hawks. Then on top of that, if a player like Montrezl Harrell gets offered a max contract elsewhere, especially because the Clippers have to pay players like Lou Williams, Patrick Beverley, Kawhi, Paul George, like, there's not going to be enough money for Montrezl. He more than likely is going to leave. So Montrezl Harrell is our big sign in this free agency. We also signed a bunch of role players such as Tristan Thompson, Christian Wood, Emmanuel Mudiay, Courtney Lee, David Nwaba. We signed all those players to 1-year deals, keeping our financial flexibility and adding a lot of depth to this roster. Also, a few more players accepted their qualifying offers. Welcome them back. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I got a trade to announce. Although I didn't want to trade these players, Fernando and Wallace, I'm trading them to the Oklahoma City Thunder for some draft picks because I didn't realize it when I made all these signings, but we have way too many players on our roster to enter next season. So a trade basically had to be made, and we got 2 future first rounders from OKC. I'll take it. So now looking at the player progression, a lot of the players are on the rise. They are progressing. And oh yeah, for this rebuild, progression is at a 45, regression rate is at a 55. But nonetheless, Trae Young is the only player I really care about. His stats is going up, his stats increased. He is doing well. Montrezl Harrell on the decline. Come on, bro. It's too early for you to be declining. Like, next season, step your game up. Let's get that overall up, baby. So now it's time to advance to the next season, but I have 16 players on the roster, and we could only take 15 players into the regular season, so somebody has to get cut. And the person I decided to release to free agency, the person I decided to waive is David Nwaba. I'm sorry, but we already have a lot of forwards. He wasn't going to get no playing time anyway. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the new NBA season. And looking at our starting lineup, I think I want to keep this starting five for the future because this starting five is OD lit. But first, let's look at the rest of the roster. We have a lot of depth, bro. Kevin Huerter, Tristan Thompson, Emmanuel Mudiay, Cam Reddish. Bro, this team is low-key looking very stacked, at least with young talent, for the most part, at least. But we do have a lot of players coming off the bench that could ball. But looking at our starting five, Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Montrezl Harrell. Talk about defense for days. Well, defense for days and offense for days. This is the perfect blend of offense and defense. Trae Young, offense. Anthony Edwards, defense. DeAndre Hunter, he's a good offensive and defensive player. John Collins, excellent defender. Montrezl Harrell, excellent defender. So right now, we are basically building an identity with this starting five. Basically, our new identity, lockdown defense. We gotta be able to play lockdown defense, stop the opposing team from scoring, and then Trae Young is gonna light them up. That's our game plan, bro. Like, lockdown defense, Trae Young shooting on every possession. Championship. Now here we are at the end of this season, and check this out. We won our last game of the season. We won 57 games, bro. From the 30 win mark to the 50 win mark. Bro, 57 games? And on top of that, my son Trae Young made the All-NBA second team and All-Rookie first team. My son Anthony Edwards. Our players balled out this season. That's what I want to see. No significant injuries. Our players, our young core got a chance to play together, gel together. Oh my goodness, we are lit. And after winning 57 games, ladies and gentlemen, we are the #1 seed. From not making the playoffs last season to being the #1 seed. We are going to be facing off against the Washington Wizards in the first round of the NBA playoffs. I think we could win the championship this season. Like, imagine if we win the championship. We went from literally the bottom, not making the playoffs, to the top of the NBA. Bro, that just goes to show you Anthony Edwards, Trae Young, definitely gonna be a dynamic duo, especially if this happens in real life. You guys see it right here. #1 team, best team in the Eastern Conference for sure. But now, speaking of Young and Edwards, Trae Young averaged 27 points per game, 8 assists per game. Anthony Edwards in his rookie season averaged 16 points per game. Montrezl Harrell, his first season with us, averaged 14 points. John Collins, 13 points, 9 rebounds. Bro, our starting five is lit. Can't nobody tell me nothing, bro. So now it's time to simulate the first round of the NBA playoffs. This should be an easy sweep. Washington Wizards stand no chance, although they did draft LaMelo Ball. See 2-0 series lead, 3-0 series lead. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to the next round. We get the sweep. Get the Washington Wizards out of here. Who are we going to be facing in the second round? We are going to be facing off against the Philadelphia 76ers. Should be interesting. But before we get to that series, for the playoffs so far, or in the first round, Trae Young averaged 20 points per game, 7 assists. Anthony Edwards averaged 18 points. So he went from averaging 16 during the regular season to 18 in the playoffs. That is a good sign. But Trae Young, come on, bro. You got to score more than 20. You got to give them at least 25 points per game. That's not asking for a lot, bro. You could do that. So now we are facing off against the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, the Philadelphia 76ers. This should be an easy series. 2-0 series lead for us. We got this in the bag, but the Sixers are fighting back. They got a 3-2 series lead. Wait, we got eliminated? Bro, can somebody explain to me, how did the Sixers eliminate us? We had a 2-0 series lead, and the Sixers won the next 4 games in a row to move on to the next round. Thank God the Celtics beat them, and the Celtics go on to the finals, faced off against the Rockets, and swept the Houston Rockets. The Boston Celtics are once again NBA champions, but how do we lose in the second round to the Philadelphia 76ers? Bro, that's some BS. So after that disappointing playoff run, like #1 in the Eastern Conference, losing to a 4th seed, bro. A 4th seed? The Sixers? Bro, after that horrible playoff series after we got eliminated, shifting our focus to the offseason. Looking at the draft lottery, we are getting the 19th overall pick via Miami. Remember the trade we made with the Oklahoma City Thunder last season? That's how we got that pick. And then our pick is 28th. So we have the 28th overall pick and the 19th overall pick. I don't want those picks. So I decided that sometime during the NBA draft, I am going to trade both of those picks. I'm going to try to get a future first rounder from somebody. I mean, there has to be a team in the NBA that would want 2 first rounders right now in exchange for a future first rounder. Somebody has to take the bait on that. So now, since we made it to the playoffs, we were the number 1 seed and we got eliminated. I'm sorry, but I had to look at our coaching staff and I didn't realize how bad our staff actually was. Lloyd Pierce, our head coach, C+ in offense, D+ in defense, potential is a C+. I'm sorry, Lloyd, but although you're a young coach, you gotta go. I gotta find somebody better than him because we have a nice young core that's ready to take things to the next level. By literally next season or the season after, we have to be able to win a championship. And Lloyd Pierce wasn't doing it. Gotta find a new head coach. And I got the perfect person in mind. So now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing our new head coach, Billy Donovan. Signed him to a 2-year deal just to see what he is made of. He has to be able to at least take us to the NBA Finals within the rest of his contract. He has 2 years to do it, bro. Take us to the NBA Finals. You got yourself a long-term deal. But I do feel as though Billy Donovan is going to do great as the head coach for our Atlanta Hawks, primarily because he coached talent such as KD, Westbrook. So he coached that Oklahoma City Thunder team when KD and Westbrook was still there. So he has experience coaching stars, and then on top of that, he has experience coaching younger players as well. He coached in college, won a championship in college, led his team to a championship in college, I should say. But nonetheless, Billy Donovan, this is our guy. He has 2 years to do it. Can he take us to the finals? Let's find out. So now we get to the NBA draft, and honestly, like I said, I didn't want the 2 draft picks that I had this year, so I decided to see if I could swindle my New York Knicks out of a draft pick, their 2022 first round unprotected draft pick. So I offered them my 2 picks in this year's NBA draft and a future first rounder for their future first rounder in 2022. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They took the bait. They accepted that deal. So we got ourselves a good draft pick. So now I know a lot of you guys must be thinking, what am I going to do with this squad? Like, we had an early playoff exit, best team in the Eastern Conference. What am I going to do? First, pending options, picking up the team option on everybody's contract. I'm not letting none of these players go. I would be a fool to decline any of these team options. I'd be a fool to do so. And on top of that, I decided that I want to keep this team together. If a team is doing well together, they're gelling, they one of the best teams in a conference, you cannot let players on that team walk, bro. Breaking a team up like this that was the best team in the Eastern Conference last season after not making the playoffs the season before that would be a very bad idea. So in addition to picking up all those team options, I decided to offer the qualifying offers to everybody on my squad. And now we get to free agency, and like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I am keeping the squad together. I'm bringing back all of our players. I had to, bro. I'm bringing them back on 1-year deals too, except for Bembry, signed him to a 2-year deal. But John Collins and Christian Wood try to leave the squad, but guess what? I am matching their contract. They were only offered 1-year deals as well, so that's pretty fair. So both Christian Wood, John Collins, Bembry, Emmanuel Mudiay, Charles Brown Jr., Tristan Thompson, they're all coming back to the Atlanta Hawks. I am not letting them go, bro. And in addition to the players that I kept, Tyrone Wallace, I decided to bring him back to the squad. If you guys don't remember, I did trade him in our first season. He was the one that I traded with Fernando to the Oklahoma City Thunder. He was a free agent. Brought him back to the squad. Also decided to sign my man Ken Burge for defensive purposes, and I was going to sign Kadeem Allen for the same reason, but I didn't realize that he had a torn left ACL. He's going to be out for the season. I wasn't paying attention to the injury, bro. Like, I thought he was like sick or something. It was like a day-to-day injury. I wasn't really paying attention. So yeah, Kadeem Allen, I gotta stay away from players like that. Now looking at the player progression menu, all of our players are on the rise. we doing good right now, bro. Like, a young core. All of our players are young. We are on the rise. Our starting five is lit. Our bench depth, our second unit is lit. Things are looking good for us next season. And speaking of next season, as soon as I finished simulating the Summer League, I got to the All-Star City selection. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be hosting All-Star Weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. So, come on, bro. We definitely have to have an All-Star, and we need to go somewhere in the playoffs, bro. We definitely have to. You guys should know the roster by now. You guys see the second unit is lit. I was starting five: Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Montrezl Harrell. That is our starting five of the future. And in my opinion, if that was to be a real life starting five, I feel like this Atlanta Hawks team will go so far. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you at the end of this season. Let's see how we do. And ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this season, we won 61 games. Welcome to the 60 win club. We went from a 30-win season to a 50-win season to now we are in the 60s. A 61 win season for this Atlanta Hawks squad. Bro, we are really on the come up. And speaking of a come up, my son Billy Donovan, coach of the year, leading this Atlanta Hawks squad to a 61-21 record. Bro, I told you guys, Billy Donovan with the Atlanta Hawks, match made in heaven. But before I continue, check this out. My man Ball is rookie of the year. How does that happen? Like, the dude been in the league for a while, and now all of a sudden he's rookie of the year. My son pulled a Ben Simmons. Like, they didn't play him probably the first 3 seasons, and now all of a sudden they decided to play him. And look at the man, rookie of the year, averaging 21 points per game. Shout out to my son Ball. I always want to see him succeed. So after our 61 win season, we find ourselves again at the top of the Eastern Conference, #1 seed in this NBA playoffs. Time to make some noise. But before we ball out, all of our players are healthy. And on top of that, Trae Young averaged 26 points per game. Anthony Edwards went up. He averaged 19 points per game. DeAndre Hunter, 15 points per game. Montrezl Harrell, 15 points per game. John Collins, 10 rebounds per game, 13 points. The dude is averaging a double-double now. Our squad is ready to go far in the playoffs. So now here we go, simulating the first round against the Detroit Pistons. This should be an easy sweep. We won game 1, game 2 goes to us as well. We always win the first 2 games and see, then we lose game 3. Come on, bro. Oh, we lost the next. Bro, come on. Stop playing with me. Okay, we have a 3-2 series lead, and the Detroit Pistons forced a game 7, but we end up getting the W. And look at this, deja vu. We are facing off against the 4th seeded Philadelphia 76ers once again. But before we get to that series, I had to look at the Pistons roster and see why were they playing so well. They still got Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, but they also got Zaire Wade. Makes a lot of sense. Dude is the son of Dwayne Wade, bro. Of course he's gonna ball out. Okay, so now I got my fingers crossed. Simulating the second round against the Philadelphia 76ers. The series is tied at 1 apiece. Come on, we got the series lead right now. 3-1 series lead. And ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Thank you. We really should have did that last season, bro. There was no way the Philadelphia 76ers should have beaten us last season. But this season, the rematch, we got the W. Anthony Edwards and Trae Young, they've been balling out. Like, Anthony Edwards had a 42-point game. Trae Young had a 30-plus point game. Both of those players balling out for our squad. So I had to check the playoff stats again real quick. Trae Young averaging 27 points per game. Anthony Edwards, 23 points in the playoffs. Every time I look at Anthony Edwards, the dude is averaging more and more points. This is dangerous. Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, I'm telling you guys, beast backcourt. But now we find ourselves in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat. Let me see their roster. Let me see what they are working with. They got Mike Conley, Josh Hart, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. So they got some defense and offense in their starting lineup. And the rest of the team looks pretty good. They still got Tyler Hero, Justice Winslow. They also got Sharif O'Neal, Shaquille O'Neal's son. Like, this team is looking pretty special. So now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment of truth. Eastern Conference Finals. I'm simulating this round. Miami Heat had a 2-1 series lead. We come back and we win the series 4-2. We are going to the NBA Finals. And we're going to be facing off against the Utah Jazz. How did the Jazz make the finals? So I'm looking through their roster and their second unit don't seem all that, but bro, they have Rudy Gobert, Kawhi Leonard, Donovan Mitchell. That's their big three. Donovan Mitchell and Kawhi Leonard have the same overall. They're both 93 overalls. No wonder they made it to the finals, bro. But to be honest, their second unit looks to be low-key trash. So all we gotta do is tire out Kawhi, tire out Donovan Mitchell, and who's gonna score for the Utah Jazz? Now it's time to simulate the NBA Finals. They won Game 1, we got Game 2, Game 3, Game 4. We have a 3-1 series lead just like that. I'm gonna simulate this last game using Simcast because I want to sub into the game and see the championship presentation if we win. And we are blowing out the Utah Jazz. Ladies and gentlemen, wait, are they making a comeback? Nope, they're not making a comeback. And ladies and gentlemen, the rebuild is complete. We beat the Utah Jazz, and we are now your NBA champions. But before we get to celebrating, look at this. I'm just watching the Hall of Fame CPU play each other. Oh my goodness, get that weak stuff out of here. I told you, this team was gonna be beastly on defense. Look at that. John Collins saying, get that weak stuff out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, the champs have arrived. Anthony Edwards somehow got injured, but it doesn't really matter. We are your NBA champions. Ladies and gentlemen, the rebuild is complete. And in 3 seasons, I managed to bring a championship to the Atlanta Hawks. I told you guys, Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, John Collins, that would be a beast squad. Even if the Atlanta Hawks in real life was not to get the first overall pick, and they somehow, some way, got their hands on Anthony Edwards, just like how they got Trae Young, bro, this team is going to be special. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, rebuild complete. My first successful rebuild, because in my New York Knicks rebuild, I wasn't able to help them get the championship. They lost in the finals, bro, against the Houston Rockets in a Game 7. Game came down to the wire. Bro, just go back and watch that video if you missed it. But nonetheless, if you made it to the end of this episode, make sure you leave a like, a thumbs up, and you're subscribed to the channel. Because if you made it all the way to the end of this episode and you didn't do none of those 3 things, that's some real shady business. But if you did make it to the end of this episode, you did all 3 of those things, ladies and gentlemen, you are loved, you are appreciated, and just like my son Trae Young, you're the finals MVP. So make sure and do all those good things for me. Click one of the playlists. There's somewhere on the screen right now. Check out my other content on my channel. This is the Prince of YouTube. See you guys in the next rebuild challenge / what if challenge. This is the Prince of YouTube, signing out.